Number one, many of you do not know what the name Osawite stands for. And I'm going to explain that right now. Osawite stands for original, sacred, order, inner circle, empire of the Most High.
That in itself is, how should I say, a particular name that is extremely ancient that many know nothing about. It has its significance amongst what you would refer to as the 24 elders, of which I am the 13th. I am Protestant in that circle.
And we are not a separate group, listen, that are standing outside of the Nuwaubian nation. All of us are Nuwaubians, first and foremost. And then we are Anuwaubians, meaning we take the name of Anu and put it out front. Now, if you declare yourself a Nuwaubian, then you know that you have rendered your life and your services to the Most High. And there are many of you who do not, and at the same time who do recognize the name of Anu as being the name of the Most High. Why? Because it comes from out of the cuneiform, which is the oldest dating language on the planet, which predates your Semitic tongue, be they Hebrew, Greek, or Arabia. You see, the information that the Osawite putting out, number one, cannot be muted out and or denied. There is no one else amongst you in this day and time that's putting out new information. You see, we're going to be putting out a show called Who Else Is Doing It, where we will address who else is putting out new information. And if indeed this information has been fabricated, then that means it can be done. And if I can do it, then you can do it too. And what I say to you is, produce the likeness thereof. Listen, because if anybody thinks that we here at the Osawite can sit around and fabricate this level of information, that person is a fool. That person's worse than a fool, because that's impossible. Nor do we have, the time to waste our time or yours to even want to do something like that. So again, if it's fabricated, then that means it can be done. And if it can be done, then that means you can do it. And if you can do it, then produce the likeness thereof. You see? And you will not be able to do it, because this information cannot be muted out and or denied. And if indeed you feel it can be, then produce the likeness thereof, is what I say to you all right now. Because ain't none of y'all putting out anything new. And ain't none of y'all able to, stand against what's being said. Not one.
To set things up for the time frame we're in right now. Well, I'm going to, let me tell you something. We're going to give you a new information. The Osawite, Atun Re, that's right. And we know it's going to be called right now knowledge. Where it don't pertain to the things that's going on right now. Get it out my face.
Step one is to bring BaBa's case back into the news, back into the public's eye. That's step one. Then step two will be to present an evidence that shows that they use certain techniques, certain technologies and the science of alchemy acting in concert with each other to do what they was able to do to me, being the exact same things that they did to BaBa. Because what you have here is a situation by which today, listen now, on your road, there is a new type of car that is being put out onto America's highway. It has a new type of paint job, and it has a new type of lighting system, which is all designed around a particular type of technology that enables them to project holograms, y'all, into certain areas, that can show you committing a murder on 6th Street while you live, in Washington Heights, laying in your bed sleep. And on that land, prior to May 8th of 2002, you had a multitude of different agencies that was on the land, implementing certain technologies, while there, that showed BaBa many times involved in acts that he himself should not have been involved in. But the question is, was it BaBa? No. You have holograms, and you had Lucifer himself, who is a shapeshifter, who is shapeshift into looking identical to BaBa, that ultimately enabled him to do what he's going to do. Well, let me explain something to you. I'm going to set up a means by which a hologram can show the judge having sex with a child in the back of the courtroom. And all we have to do is raise what you call reasonable doubt, and in that will free BaBa. And then I'm going to prove that they use that type of technology against Baba on the land. And then I'm going to prove that somebody can shapeshift. How? By shapeshifting myself in the courtroom. And then I'm going to show them who Lucifer is and what it is he can do. Who is who works at Lucas Studios in Marin County, who is an FBI agent, ex-Marine, who works also at MGM Studios down in Hollywood. I'm telling you that a proof will be presented in court that nobody else can produce. I'm going to present a means by which a hologram can be seen of the judge. Through the same technology that they use against Baba in the back of the courtroom, showing the judge having sex with a child, letting the judge see it with his own two eyes. As one means. Then I'm going to show and prove, that the Akashic record can be accessed. How? By accessing the Akashic record for them in open court. And then I'm going to prove to them that it's nothing but science and that anybody can do this. And then I'm going to, put the entire Masonic community on trial. I'm going to tie the Masonic community into, everything that occurs. First, with my divorce proceeding. Second, with, lawsuits that will be filed. And third, in Baba's new trial that they will have to give him by virtue of the fact that a new evidence will be presented. What I've said is that you have an enhanced form of adult entertainment that is only offered to high-ranking Freemasons that enables them to have sex with their computer. That, feels in every way real. And now, that in itself is a different type of technology. The holograms are just projected imagery that look extremely real. They was using all of that. They was using holograms, they was using clones, and they was using Lucifer's ability to shapeshift. A short while before Baba's conviction, you had a group of beings in Canada who was called Ray Aliens, who announced to the world that they had successfully cloned someone. Okay? And Ray Aliens are indeed a part of the Illuminati, a part of Astar Command. So again, I'm not just talking about one thing that will be addressed, which is the holograms. I'm talking about the clones. I'm talking about the shape-shifting ability. All of that will be addressed in order to bring about a new trial. But we have to coordinate our efforts as a family. So what I'm saying is, let the family come together with the Osolites. We will coordinate these efforts and make this a reality by which we will make history. And I'm able, are you, or are you a cane, which is a staff that a disabled person will use to get them from point A to point B. And when I say I'm able, what it is I'm saying is I'm able to stand up and to get it done. And I will do my very best. And the question is, are you? Because you can do anything I can do. And we can do all things and anything together as a family. And there's nothing that can stop us. Because I know many of you all have not gone to any type of penitentiary ever before in your lives. And on that note, you don't know how the police do what they do. But I do. Want to know why? Because I've been there. And what I do know is that Baba is not in your everyday, average, ordinary situation and or penitentiary. He is in a place called Florence, Colorado, Supermax, which is the most, state-of-the-art facility that America has to offer. You don't go to Florence, Colorado unless they're in fear of your influence. Here it is, Florence, influence, same thing. So what I'm going to do at this particular point is I'm going to tell you all what type of support we here at the Osolites need in order to be able to get Baba out. And the thing is, in Baba's case, the witnesses, many of them were FBI agents and GPIs, sheriff's people, and were not victims. And in this, their backs were put against the wall when they were put on the stand. And why? Because they couldn't answer the question. And the transcripts that we need specifically are the pretrial transcripts, where the judge is making motions and by statements and covering up for the prosecution's office and making outright derogatory statements against Baba, which were all driven by false character references, which moved the court to be able to allow the court to, circumvent Baba's constitutional right by not allowing Baba a continuance, knowing that Baba had just gotten a new attorney whose name at that time was Adrian Patrick. And when you say Patrick, you're saying packed full of tricks. And this being only had 6 days by which to prepare, while the prosecution's office had 2 years. And in this, if we're able to get those transcripts, which we should be able to get through the Freedom of Information Act, we will then be able to see all the mistakes that were made and done in the PSI portion of the trial. Now, many of you don't even know what the word PSI means. And why? Because none of you all have ever been to the penitentiary or were made to stand trial in front of what they say is 12 of your peers. And let me tell you something. They play basketball on a basketball court. They play tennis on a tennis court. By the mere fact you enter into a room called a courtroom, that should tell you that some sort of game is being played in there. Don't know the rules to that game. Let me tell you, every time you're going to get served. Meanwhile, Baba showed up and they said, wait a minute, we're playing ping pong. So Baba said, wait, let me go outside and get my ping pong paddle. Came back with the ping pong paddle. They said, no, we're shooting pool. And he said, well, I have a pool stick right outside. They said, no, you can't go get it. He said, but I should have the right. They said, well, all right, go get your pool stick. He came back and they said, no, we're playing golf. And see, this is the type of game that they implemented against our father. And in that, now, their own doing is about to become their own undoing. That is, if indeed you all know how to embrace me right now, because indeed I am the link. Now, PSI means pre-sentencing investigation. And a pre-sentencing investigation is pushed and moved by character references. And you have in the law a thing called fruits of the poisonous tree. Why? Because one thing pushes the next. And if at any time you can prove that something was ill-gotten, in other words, gotten by a means that was illegal, then that is grounds enough by which to get a new trial. Because one thing pushes the next, and so on and so forth. And so, if law was broken at any time to acquire any one thing, then ultimately everything that came after that has to be thrown out. Now, that is how the holograms, having been used, and us being able to prove these things today will come into play. And two, that is also how, check this out, the usage of the clone, the usage of Lucifer's, check this out, shift-shifting abilities. You see, all of that violated the constitutional rights of Baba. And when you talk about Jacob York and those team of youngsters that got together and orchestrated all of this, they were all victimized by a software called PAN, which is literal mind control. Why? Because they know we are tribal people by nature. There are two different types of animals in the jungle, y'all. You have herbivores and you have carnivorous eating animals. The carnivorous eating animals are referred to as your lions, tigers, etc. And these are your meat eaters. And what's ironic about those meat-eating animals is that the only time they come together is to hunt. And then after successfully joining together to kill, say, an antelope, what you will then see is that the lion or the tiger fighting with its brother to kill the antelope will then turn on each other. Well, that's the I got mine, nigga, you got to get yours attitude, which is the beast's mentality that we as the people today have adapted, which has literally taken us out of our minds. And then you have your herbivores, such as deer, antelope, giraffes, elephants, and you will see that their survival lies within the mere fact that they stay together. They put their elderly in the middle, their women and children around them, and then all their men are around them, and then they post up lookouts, which is the for, with, and by each other mentality that the Ansar Allah community was established. And in this, they survive. But it's always one hard-headed Negro who says, no, I don't want to eat over here. Why? Because Sister Sharon's always got her elbow in my eye. And Brother Troy, he's always farting. So on that note, this dumb Negro, who is a being who still needs to grow, would then trot his behind way off, away from the rest of the family to eat. And then when the lookouts would see the lion or the tiger come and say, ho, and the whole family would run away, who would be the one to get caught out there? Well, this is what's happening now. They have divided us. And in dividing us, we have lost strength and become less than what we are, which is the great nation of, listen, all mind that we are. Now, I already told you that this is not an effort that was intended for me to do by myself. Number one, let me tell you something. When I first came to Augusta, Georgia, I informed you that BaBa had said to me that we were supposed to contact a lawyer in Baltimore, Maryland, at which time you agreed. I called the lawyer. His name is Billy Murphy. And there's another lawyer by the name of Paul Polanski. Let me tell you something, who are very proficient in what they do. If indeed you all were on track in your effort, then how is it that the master kept getting lawyers that ain't nobody never heard of? I'll tell you how. Because the people that was hiring these lawyers ain't never been to the penitentiary. And it is the people in the penitentiaries who know the lawyers whose reputations are indeed speaking for themselves. Why? Because these people are fighting for their freedom. And the people out in the world don't have the slightest clue what lawyers are good and what lawyers are not, unless you have a high-profile case like the O.J. Simpson case, where certain lawyers are then made to step out into the public's eyes, like Johnny Cochran, you see, Robert Shapiro, and all the names of the Supreme Team that O.J. Simpson was able to put together. But other than that, the brothers in the penitentiary are the ones who know what lawyers are good.
About, I don't know, I think it might have been 1996. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and at that time I was part of the Atlanta tab. Mind you, I had been sent there by BaBa, as also in the past I had been sent to Baltimore. I was part of the Baltimore tab, and that's where I first caught my first conviction. I'm sentenced to 25 years, and I wasn't supposed to come home until 2012, after having signed a written plea agreement to only receive no less than 4, no more than 7. That occurred February 20th, 1989, and is part of public record. And that's one of the reasons why BaBa wrote the book called Let's Set the Record Straight, because every bit of this ties in. And what I want you all to do, my brothers and sisters, is to just listen and make a judgment call on your own as I continue to speak and do what it was I was told to do. Okay, now, like I said, that was February 20th, 1989. However, we're talking about when it started in terms of my memory being restored and the journey that I was taking on, by which I sat with those other masters. Let me explain how that occurred. In 1997, at that time, or really from 95 to 97, I was part of the Atlanta tab on Edgewood Avenue. Initially, Mueen and Milka were in charge. BaBa had asked me, after speaking to him on the phone, well, what tab did I want to, where did I want to go? And I said, well, I would like to go to the Atlanta tab. And he said, well, I want you to write this number down. And he gave me a number, and he said, you call there, and you asked to speak to a brother by the name of Mueen and or Milka, who was his wife. And tell them that I said to open the doors and to allow you in upon your arrival. In fact, tell them that I said to send you the money that you need so that you could come. Mind you, I had not filled out an application. You know, everybody knows that in order to be a part of this mission, you would have to fill out an application by which you render 4 passport photos. And you were told to take a physical examination and the application itself. Without it, I know of no one else in the mission that has ever been able to live with us without having complied to that rule. But I myself didn't have to, not on this occasion, and that's the truth. And it can be verified. All you have to do is call Milka. If I'm not mistaken, she's in Athens, Georgia. She knows. Even though Mueen is dead, and mind you, I want you to know something, his death wasn't a natural thing. He was murdered by the Knights of Templar, who are alchemical assassins, which I'll be talking more about as we move forward. Now, I got there, I arrived, and they did as Baba had asked. I got clearance to come to the land and ultimately went, and at the time Solomon's Temple hadn't been totally built at that time, and Baba used to come out and speak when you would go to, when you would place your book orders. As a member of the family, you would have to first have clearance to get on the land. And on Wednesdays we would go, and oftentimes Baba would come out front, to the gate and speak. Short while after being there, I met a sister who her and I became, for lack of a better way to put it, an item. Her name was Kalika. And Kalika and I then became husband and wife, by which she blessed me with a beautiful baby boy. Words cannot describe to you how much I loved them too. For one time in this life, can honestly say that I was happy. And what took place is as such. There came a time, but one day my mate came to me and she said, "Would you mind if I take our son to see my mother?" I said, "Quite certainly. That's his grandmother. I think the two should bond." And in so much as me having responded in this way, she did as she had requested. She called later on that evening and then said to me, "Would you mind if Kareem," that's my son, "can stay for the weekend? Because my mother would like to share his company a little further." I said, "Quite certainly. I think it's nice that the two of them be together." And she said, "Plus that will free me up and you and I will have some free time." I said, "Well, no problem." Little did I know I would never see my son again. Her mother is a school teacher in Atlanta, Georgia, and our story is written into the scriptures, and any of you can see. He plays a reincarnate who in another life was called Nergal Shahrazad, and the scriptures are posted inside a manuscript that I wrote that is called The Book. The story is identical to what it is I have lived in this life. The grandmother takes the child. The mother then leaves shortly thereafter, to which I never see my child again until at a later time the child is restored, because Nergal Shahrazad and Nergal are father and son. Now, like I said, she took the child to her mother's house, and as a result, I never saw my child again. Her father's name is Lawrence Weaver. He is the head of the Atlanta Boys Choir. Beautiful being. Him and I spoke, and for lack of a better way to put it, he himself was thrown as to what would be the reason. It's like, I don't know if any of you understand what a whipping from the Most High will do, but indeed, it is quite serious. Like your grandmother would say, "Go on down there, boy, and get me one of them switches off the tree." While she sit to the porch. I remember me walking down the block to get one, pulling the leaves off, coming back to the porch and swinging it, hearing the wind blow. Knowing that indeed, with each strike, I would feel pain. Well, I knew it has a switch. And let me tell you how a whipping from the Most High goes. And trust me, I don't think any of you would want to experience it. To know what it's like is to picture everything you love dearly, all those things that mean the most. See them in your mind's eye, then close your eye and open them. And at that minute, realize that they are gone for absolutely what appears to be no reason. Well, I had done some things that were not right. I was supposed to be in a specific time. I was supposed to have been in a specific place. And in this, I had missed by participating in things that I had no business, is what the first elder and or master whom I sat then told me. And what it was is this, and I met this sister. This sister claimed that she was going to Morris Brown College, studying to earn a degree. I met her in a place called the Underground in Atlanta. And it's quite significant how it occurred, because, and may the Most High be my witness, every word I'm about to say is true. I was at a telephone in a place called Mix. It's a very, very nice restaurant. And at that time, we were selling certain things called tone dollars. Certain ones of us who were members of the tab, I need not explain what tone dollars were because, you know, that's not a necessity at this time. Well, either way, I used to go and mix, and I was standing at the phone booth using the phone, and I turned around and I saw a sister walking towards me. And I heard in my mind very clearly, that will be your next wife. And ultimately, she went into the bathroom. I tried to ignore because in a real way, what I used to hear in my head at first, I used to think I was bugging. But indeed, as I lived on, I came to know that indeed I was not. See, the bathroom door then swung open and she was in a mirror with another mirror to her back. And I'm looking at her face through the reflection of the mirror that was to her back. And then I heard a voice say, she will be the mother of your next child. And I swear to you all, may the Most High be my witness, when the sister came out, I approached her. And my words were as such, excuse me, sister, I don't mean no harm. But something just told me, you know, something I just heard, that you would be my next wife. I know I don't know you, I know it sounds absurd. And I was told that you would have my next child. She said, brother, you crazy. I said, no, I'm very serious. And she could see that I was visibly shook. She said, you know, that's absurd. I said, well, why do you say that? Anything's possible. And she said, no, because I want you to know I have a man. In fact, I'm waiting on him right now. I said, well, do you mind if I wait with you? And maybe we can just talk a minute or two. You know what I mean? I mean no harm. And I'll be extremely respectful. The sister said, well, why not? He'll be here quite shortly. We can sit down and we can talk. And we sat down and we got to talking. And the next thing I know, she tells me, I asked her, I said, well, what do you do? What are you into? She said, well, I go to school and I'm a dancer. I said, well, what type of dance? Are you in the modern dance, you know, ballet? She said, no, I'm an exotic dancer. I dance in a strip club on Stewart Avenue. I said, what? And that was the very last thing that I wanted to hear. The reason being was because there was times while in the Atlanta tab that the brothers came to me and they said, yo, brother, you want to go out? And I'm like, where we going? They said, well, we going to strip club. I said, y'all got to be crazy. I said, no, nobody will never know. All you have to do is take off the tabernacle paraphernalia and they won't be able to identify us. And I went that night and I saw some things that indeed I knew were not right. I saw our brothers patronizing me. I mean, they took me into a place where, to be perfectly honest with you all, quite small, with almost 200 naked women walking around. And I sat there and I had money, but I couldn't see myself giving the money that I was earning away for something of that nature. While our other brothers, I watched them at the stage throwing dollar bills to the different ladies of the night, or whatever you wanted to call them. And this had taken place prior to me meeting this sister. And ultimately, what then occurred is this. When I met the sister and she told me that she was an exotic dancer, to be perfectly frank with you, I was quite pissed. I didn't feel comfortable with it. I didn't like it. I looked at the entire activity as if it was wrong. My soul was telling me, this is not right. But, you know, you can't be judgmental. And in that, I continued to be nice and we spoke. We then started to talk in terms of the scripture. I said, do you know there's a level of information that the powers that be have fought for centuries to keep you from finding out? She said, what are you referring to? I said, well, do you have any idea that your story is written in a way by which it is clear and can be clearly understood? She said, no, I did not. I said, well, let me show you something. And I pulled out the book and turned to Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. And I'm sure you all know of a certainty that thy seed shall be taken to a land and made strangers in the land and made to serve this land for 400 years. And then the dialogue opened. And I started to speak, and the brother never came. I said, well, look, you know, she kept looking at her watch. I'm like, what, he's a little late? She said, no, he's a lot late. I said, well, do you like ice cream? She said, yes, I do. I said, well, we used to get these peanut butter shakes at a Dairy Queen right across there in the underground where we were sitting. And these peanut butter shakes I liked very much, in so much that we used to drink them in the Ansar community. High in protein. All of the old heads, they know. In 685, all those brothers in 685, they remember the peanut butter shakes. And I know they know what I mean. Any of you brothers that are out there listening to me, I know y'all remember. Well, like I said, I spoke to the sister. Her and we spoke for quite some time, and the brother never came. I ended up giving her several books and my number. Immediately the next day, she gave me a call and said, brother, I don't know where you got this information, but I need more of this. And I said, I'm happy you called, and I'm happy to hear you said that, sis. Meet me at wherever you want, and I'm on my way. She said, no, but give me your number first. I said, no problem, here. And we met again. She returned what books and tapes I had given her, and ultimately I gave her more. The next thing I know, she was in class, sitting in the front row, taking notes. And this sister then became my wife. Okay? Now, and like I said, I did some things that were not right. I went into that industry with the attempt of bringing her out. You see, I knew that in order to bring her out in some type of way, I couldn't be judgmental, and I would have to go into her world, so I thought it was a mistake on my part. And to show her all the things that I saw, to let her be able to see that what she was doing was, number one, not right, and number two, not even profitable. It was an illusion. And that in it all, she was losing the most valuable thing, her soul. So, I did. I brought her out. We lived in Nuwapo Garden. At that time, Baba had purchased an apartment complex for only family members, and those beings who were around at that time, they remember this. It was called Houston Square Apartment. Now, and Baba left it that name because of how, our many brothers and sisters who moved in just didn't do with it the right things, and it didn't make sense. And ain't it ironic that it was called Houston, watch this, Square Apartment? Because on the one hand, it was supposed to have been called Nuwapo Garden, and then it just got left being called Houston Square Apartment. Well, initially, there was only one apartment left, and I got that. There was a long waiting list to be able to get in, because everybody went in cab from all over. I mean, from as far as Detroit, from as far as New York. Everybody wanted to have an apartment in Nuwapo Garden. When it came knowledge that Baba had purchased an apartment complex, what? Everybody was on it. Trust me. And it came to pass. Now, mind you, this sister was still not a member of the tab. She had put in an application, but it had still yet not been processed. And at this particular time, anybody could live in the Nuwapo Gardens, but the word came down from the top, which at that time was not called Tamaray, it was called Kadesh. And the word came down that Nuwapo Gardens would no longer be, a facility for anyone who were not, involved in a relationship. Baba wanted only married couples to be there. Beings who were, family orientated and ultimately moving and progressively along to establish their family institutions, meaning having children. And at this time, my mate was pregnant. Mind you, still without her application process. And certain things occurred, let me tell you all, by which some miraculous things took place. Well, let me tell you what it was. At that time, there was a brother, and he knows who he is. His name was Yusef. And I don't care if he's out there listening, I hope he is, because you were out of place, my brother, in so much as that you were moving people away from what would be called the straight and narrow path. I don't care how you say it, it's right. The path that leads to a place by which, only the righteous will be able to enjoy. Why? Because, many of our brothers had got involved in an activity, and sisters, that was illegal in every way. It was bad enough many of us were selling movies, but good Lord, this brother had brothers and sisters going into banks with paper that wasn't cool, taking large amounts of money, and they know who they are. They know they was breaking the rules. And Baba came out and told them all to stop doing what they were doing. And did they listen? No. Well, it came a Wednesday that I went to get my books, and Baba was supposed to come out and speak and never did. And that day it rained, and hundreds of us stood out in the rain and became sopping and soaking wet, waiting on the master to come out, waiting for our book orders to be filled. And I found my way into a vehicle with a brother that I did not know by the name of Yusef. And then him and I started to speak, and I started telling him my ideas about setting up a business, etc. And ultimately, at that particular point, how much money do you need to make it happen? He said, sounds like you might need about $10,000 or $15,000 at a bare minimum. I said, probably a little more.